بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. Alhamdulillah that Allah privileged us with the blessing of reaching yet another Ramadan. An opportunity like this that many or most take for granted is an opportunity longed for by those you pass by and see in their graves. In these early moments of Ramadan, make a resolution and make a supreme noble resolution. Make it your aim to attain entry from all the gates of Jannah through this Ramadan. Let this Ramadan be your means for that. Make your aim to attain Firdaus through this Ramadan. Take advantage of it, work for it, and rest assured Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never let you down. Last year we gathered doing a series. You all remember. And today we're doing another series. Between this one and that one, it's as if it was an hour of a day or even less. And that's how your life and our lives slip away. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to strengthen and purify our hearts during this month in order to take full advantage of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you all barakah during your lifetime and especially during this month, so that you may fulfill it with deeds, and may Allah accept from us all. Last year, we did a daily spiritual Imanic series, which was later referred to as the Gems of Ramadan. This Ramadan, and it's based on the suggestion and request of many brothers and sisters locally and worldwide, we'll do a series on the Fiqh of Ramadan. And this is for everyone. Just like that Imanic series was for everyone, this is for everyone, but it's slightly geared more towards Talabat al-Ilm. In reality, nearly everything we learn, or we will be learning in the Fiqh of Ramadan, nearly all of it is something that every Muslim should know. We spoke previously on what type of ilm constitutes a wajib and what constitutes a sunnah. What's wajib for you to know and what is sunnah. Issues pertaining to you or those Allah entrusted you with, like your wife and your children, in matters that are wajib like Salah or Ramadan, it's wajib for you to know. A single man doesn't need to really know the rules of a woman on her menstrual cycle. It's sunnah. You get a lot of reward for learning this, but it's not wajib on you. Now, if you have a wife that needs to know a matter pertaining to that, or a daughter Allah entrusted you with, then you have to learn to inform her. Or she can go seek that wajib knowledge without your permission. If she needs to know a wajib knowledge on her, she has the right to go seek it. This year, we will study the fiqh of fasting from the book that you have, Zad al-Mustaqna', inshallah. And if you have, you either have the book or these pages. And what we'll be studying exactly, and I mentioned it earlier, but let me repeat it, is I can basically make an outline or a study booklet or a curriculum on the fiqh of fasting. And I can possibly make it more appealing to you since I know the audience and I know what interests you. And I know how to present it to you. However, the study of the classical work of our ulama who preceded us in Iman, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on them, it's essential for a talib al-ilm. It's essential for talabat al-ilm. The structured classical style study of our ulama, the lessons you get from those books is what makes a person a student of knowledge. And that's what generates ulama. Just like al-usul al-thalatha. We go through it line by line or nearly word by word. And it's the classical work of a alim on tawheed, even though that booklet is slightly more of a contemporary alim. For the fiqh of Ramadan, it was suggested, and I agree very much with what was suggested, that we use the book called Zad al-Mustaqna. Zad al-Mustaqna is a book that I would like to teach from cover to cover someday, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permits. And since it's Ramadan, it's wise and thoughtful to teach the chapter on fasting. What you have is not the book. Some of you have the book, but what you have here, this is only the chapter on fasting. In Hajj season, if someone's going to Hajj, we can possibly do the chapter on Hajj. That way, when we go through the book from cover to cover, we can skip out the portions that we already covered. Now, what is fiqh? Fiqh is basically Islamic jurisprudence. Fiqh, figuratively or linguistically speaking, means to understand. It's knowledge in something. The shar'i meaning of it, that's what concerns us, is that it's deriving religious rulings that pertain to the actions of those assigned as it pertains to haram, halal, permissibility, or disliking from the sources. Again, deriving religious rulings that pertain to the actions of those assigned. I'll mention what I mean by those assigned. And it's matters that pertain to haram, halal, permissibility, disliking from the sources. Now the definition, I said, the assigned, those assigned. Who are those assigned? What we mean by that is Muslims sane, over the age of puberty and so on. And in Ramadan, a woman who's not on her menstrual cycle. That's what we mean by those assigned. The most noble of ilm is the ilm of aqidah or tawheed. That's why we started with al-usul al-thalatha. It's the difference between eternal hell and eternal Jannah. It's the major fiqh. It's called by some ulama al-fiqh al-akbar. After aqidah and tawheed, in order of importance, it's what we start off with today, inshallah. It's fiqh, and it's also referred to as al-fiqh al-asghar. It's more, the fiqh al-asghar is the fiqh pertaining to haram and halal, the rules and regulations. It's to literally learn the rules and regulations of Islam. It's the knowledge on how you make salah, how you purify yourself before salah, how you fast, the conditions, the rules of it, what voids it, and so on and so forth. It's so important and so essential that some of the Salaf used to say, إِنَّ الْعَبْدَ قَدْ يَشِيبُ عَارِضَهُ وَلَمْ تُقْبَلْ لَهُ صَلَاةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ. A man or a Muslim may grow white hair into Islam, yet not a single one of his salah is accepted. Is he not making salah? What are they talking about? He's making salah. He's been doing it for 40 years or 80 years. Yet there's a deficiency, for example, in his tahara. There may be a deficiency or errors in the salah, like the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Irji' fasalli fa innaka lam tusalli." Go back and pray. You didn't pray, even though that man made salah. But it's as if he didn't make it. So the rules and regulations are essential. And likewise, siyam. If a woman's on her menstrual cycle, or if you travel, the details of it, making it up, all that is a glimpse of what fiqh is about. That's fiqh. Part of fiqh is knowing usury, riba, or business transaction, the difference between the two. What's haram, what's halal. The usual classical work of the ulama in fiqh is they usually write, the giants of fiqh, they write a matin. A matin is something very summarized, and that's what you have. Zad al-Mustaqna is a matin. Then they would have to the matin a sharh, an explanation to that matin. Then there would be hawashi, which is commentary. Commentary on top of the explanation and the matin. And the term hawashi comes from when you write outside the framework. If you take nice notes and jot them down, comments on the borders of the book or the writings within that book. But it doesn't necessarily mean that, but that's where the word hawashi comes from. So they have matin, which is super summarized. It's a very summarized text. Then they have explanation, which is sharh, and then they have hawashi, which is commentary on the explanation in the matin. Now, Zad al-Mustaqna is a matin. The point of the matin is to give you very summarized fiqh opinions in the very simplest, shortest ways, and right to the point. It's very summarized and directly to the point. The rules and regulations of Siyam are covered, I believe what you have here is about 5 pages. This is the section on Siyam from Zad al-Mustaqna. Yet the entire book that you have is about 300 pages. What I elaborate on or explain of this Zad al-Mustaqna is that which I learned from my shuyukh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them Firdaus, as nearly most of them passed away, died. And the other parts are taken from the shuruh and the hawashi that the ulama over time wrote on this book. Then you need to know that ulama usually or habitually start their fiqh books, the classical fiqh books, with the fiqh of ibadat, meaning worships. The ibadat, the worships, like the pillars of Islam. Some of what we refer to as fiqh of ibadat are physical, like salah, it's physical. Siyam, it's physical. It's classified as physical, even though you have to go buy clothes to do your salah. You have to spend money buy clothes. You have to pay your water bill, buy water to make your wudu for salah. But those aspects are not at the core of the ibadah. Therefore, it's classified as a physical ibadah, not a financial ibadah. Some ibadat are financial, like zakah. You may have to physically drive to get the money and then pass it out, but that's not at the core of the ibadah. So it's classified as a monetary or financial ibadah. Some ibadat are a combination between physical and financial, like Hajj. You have to do both, and both are at the core of the ibadah of Hajj. And as a side issue, the wisdom behind the diverse forms of ibadat in the choices that Allah gave us is that so one can enjoy his ibadah, so that you will elevate your rank in Jannah with ibadah you love. From the mercy of Allah is that not only does He want us to do the ibadah, but He wants us to enjoy it while we do it. Some like to read Quran and prolong their reading in Quran day and night, wherever they are, while others like to make sujood for hours at night. Some people love to stand all day, all night in their qiyam. Some can make 100 rak'ahs a day, yet cannot spend a penny in zakah. Some, of course I'm not talking about the fard zakah, the additional zakah. Some are the opposite. They can spend millions, but they can't do nawafil. So from the mercy of Allah is that He gave us ibadat to choose from. And some of it is that you have to deprive yourself of what you love, like siyam, you deprive yourself of food. Some of it you give what you love, which is like zakat, you give wealth. Allah gave us too many choices to suit our desire and what we like of ibadat. The point is that all those that I mentioned are considered ibadat, and that's what's called fiqh al-ibadat. Fuqaha start with those types of ibadat in their fiqh books. Then they tend to proceed to fiqh al-mu'amalat after that, which is the fiqh of dealings. Some of it pertains to financial dealings with each other, like borrowing, giving gifts, partnerships, business transaction. All that is fiqh al-mu'amalat. Some of it pertains to marital relationships, like marriage, divorce, khula. Some of it pertains to transgression of people against each other or against themselves, like drinking, fornications, accusations. Some of that pertains to judicial laws. That's all fiqh. And some of it pertains to personal matters. So that is all fiqh. In our book here, Zad al-Mustaqna is a summary. The author is Sharafuddin Musa ibn Ahmad al-Hajjawi. He died 968 years after the Hijrah. This book is not the work of the author al-Hajjawi. What al-Hajjawi basically did was merely summarize another book called al-Muqni'. Al-Muqni' is by a more famous author that you all know of, and that's Muwaffaq ad-Din ibn Qudama. He's the author of the original book. What Al-Hajjawi did here, he did nothing more than summarize that book by Ibn Qudama. That book by Ibn Qudama is a more in-depth book on fiqh. And Zad al-Mustaqna is basically the summarized version. And it's a Hanbali, it adopts the Hanbali opinions. And it usually selects the major opinions in the Hanbali madhab, the authority opinions. Since the author was in the 9th century, the Hijrah century, it's considered more like the authority opinions in the Hanbali madhab. Because we have many ulama, we have many opinions. And overall, the madhab that you know of are 4 madhab. But within the madhab, each madhab, there's disputed opinions. That's why those who blindly follow madhab and say, I'm a Hanbali, I'm a Maliki, I'm a strict blind follower of this madhab. Well, okay, when there's a dispute within your own madhab, and that is in all the madhab, which detour or route do you take? I'm not saying with the other madhab, within your own madhab. Abu Yusuf and Muhammad ibn Hassan, first generation students of Abu Hanifa, had many opinions that were contrary to their sheikh. You get questions sometimes like, what did Imam Ahmad say on this? I only follow what Imam Ahmad said. You follow Imam Ahmad with no proof. You want the Hanbali opinion on that issue, or the Maliki opinion on that issue, or the Shafi'i or the Hanafi opinion on that issue, with no regard to proof. The problem for you is many issues within that madhab were disputed. Within that madhab. That's within that specific madhab. It's that small circle. So imagine the dispute outside that circle with other madhab. That's why the correct and safe route is to stick to proof. Of course, there's some exemptions, someone who's illiterate, doesn't read, write, no resources. And that's a more in-depth talk that we need to get into. But we don't neglect ulama's opinions. That's why we study their books. But when it boils down to it, it's the proof that we go by. Now, the next point that I wanted to talk about is this book. This particular book gained worldwide acceptance over the past centuries. And actually today it's probably among the most popular, widespread, summarized matan in the Hanbali madhab. The book is considered by some, as I mentioned, a reference in what the official Hanbali madhab settled on. Even though that is open to discussion and dispute. Many ulama have explanations on this book, both classical and contemporary. Some actually tried to make this book into poetry to make it easier for talabat al-ilm to memorize, and many encourage memorizing this matan. Similar to what I mentioned in Usul al-Thalatha, because these mutun are very brief. However, because it's Ramadan, we will try to make these classes like khawatir, meaning they'll be short, so it will not take away from your ibadah. That way you can combine between ibadah, which is what should occupy most of your time in this Ramadan, and a little bit of ilm. A study of ilm is ibadah. With the correct intention, it becomes ibadah, as we pointed out. It's true, some ulama used to cancel their classes during Ramadan, while others continued to teach during Ramadan. There's no sunnah foundation to say in Ramadan we do not have halaqat. It's more of a matter of personal preference. The emphasis, of course, should be on Quran and worship in the month of the Quran. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. However, realistically speaking, we don't really read Quran 24/7 during Ramadan, and one needs to change his ibadat habits during Ramadan to avoid boredom and to reactivate one into doing more ibadat. So any deed completed in Ramadan, it gets you multiple folds in reward than if you were to do it outside of Ramadan, because of the sacredness of the month. And part of that you get multiple folds of reward in, is the study of ilm. Let me say, I do not suggest using your time trying to memorize this book, especially in Ramadan, or even the chapter on fasting that we're going to inshallah cover. Spend your time with Quran in this month. And if you don't have the Quran memorized completely, don't even start memorizing this book. Spend your time memorizing the Quran. And at the same time, understand this very, very, very well. After you complete the Quran and you memorize the Quran, then you start memorizing al-usul al-thalatha and books like this. And other books as well. I've met some who, wallah al-azim, don't know Arabic. Nor have they finished maybe, I think, 2 to 3 juz'. Yet they're sitting memorizing mutun that they don't understand. That's complete ignorance and a wrong strategy in talab al-ilm. Allah will not instruct you to recite Zad al-Mustaqna' and Usul al-Thalatha and Ascend to Jannah. He will tell you that about the Quran. However, you have to understand this stuff. But memorizing takes much longer time. And that's time, if you do not know the Quran, it's something that you should be spending memorizing the Quran. Some of this, like I said, is fard ayn for you to know, to understand, and to know the ruling. The benefit, however, of memorizing a book like this is that you have an outline of fiqh in your mind. We say to you, fasting. You automatically know the underlying issues, the rulings, the explanations you studied with your sheikh or later on that you will read. They all come back to your mind when you memorize mutun like this. It's as if you have a fiqh index in your mind, or if you memorize the usul al-thalatha, it's like you have a tawheed index in your mind. If you don't memorize it, it's not a problem at all. Just make sure you have a complete understanding of the issues that are mentioned. Those of you who memorize the Quran, and I know will memorize this and have memorized al-usul al-thalatha, you are going to find that this book is slightly more difficult than al-usul al-thalatha. Finally, why are we studying a Hanbali book? A book that is a fiqh book on the Hanbali madhab. I'm not Hanbali, and I have never ascribed myself to any madhab in any time of my life, alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward my father as he taught me that from a very young age. And I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in abundance and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward my father with a very long life full of deeds and then firdaus. The manhaj that I'm on and everything, the manhaj that I'm on and everything today was what I was on when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old and throughout my teenage years and so on and so forth. Never, alhamdulillah, did I change. When I was a child, for example, the looming conflict back then was the madhab issue. I recall discussions as a kid among families, and my father was involved in them, is how are we going to accept this person to marry our daughter when he's Shafi'i and we're Maliki? And my father always taught me that the foundation is the proof with love and respect to our ulama and their explanations. Just because we don't blind follow the ulama, it does not diminish the love and respect we have for them and their opinions. We most definitely need the understanding of the ulama. That's why we're studying this book and books like this. But our ultimate goal in the bottom line that we're obligated to go by is the proof as they, every single one of them said and taught us and wrote in their books. This book is a Hanbali book. But had we had before us a Shafi'i or a Maliki or a Hanafi book, I would teach it the same exact way. I would like to teach Muwatta Malik one day, inshallah, which is on the madhab of Imam Malik. And if I were to teach that book, the opinions you learn throughout this Hanbali book would be exactly what I would be teaching in the Maliki book. Meaning, the substantive issues and conclusions on fiqh matters would be the same on every issue. We would be mentioning the same issues same underlying issues, subjecting them to proof and selecting what the proof backs based on what the ulama, the muhaqqiqeen of the ulama went through and analyzed and summarized for us and selected for us. You will see many times in this book we will mention, if we get through it inshallah, that the opinion the author chose turns out to be the weakest opinion, or that there are several opinions within the Hanbali madhab, or how the Hanabila, the Imams of the Hanabila madhab, responded to opinions within their own madhab. Or it may be, yes, the adopted Hanbali madhab, or even the adopted opinion of Imam Ahmad himself, but other ulama like Malik or Abu Hanifa or Shafi'i were the ones who were correct in that issue. In fact, Ibn Taymiyyah is considered Hanbali Imam. Some accuse him of being a hardcore Hanbali. And they say, look, Ibn Taymiyyah, he was a Hanbali. Why are you not following a madhab? If you're the type of Hanbali that Ibn Taymiyyah was, we would have no problem at all. Do you know that in the first section of fiqh, which is purification, purification comes before salah. It's usually the first section in fiqh books. It's a very small section. Initial section, introduction to salah, purification of tahara. Before they start on salah, they mention purification. In a personal study I did years ago, Ibn Taymiyyah, the Hanbali, disagreed with the Hanbali madhab on 1/4 or 1/5 of the issues in that section itself. Is that blind following? That's just in the first subsection of fiqh. He disagreed with his own madhab on 1/4 or 1/5 of the issues. You will see much of his disagreement with the Hanbali madhab in this book. In fact, you will see writings of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, the Hanbali, that they say the Hanbali, where he sided with some of Imam Malik's fiqh issue, not fiqh issues, but even in usul. And namely, one of them is Amal Ahl al-Madinah. The book is like an outline. The book is like an outline or an index that we go out from. Some of the opinions in it are correct opinions. And some of the opinions of the other ulama are the correct ones. And inshallah we'll go through it sentence by sentence. In fact, some of the opinions, like I said, were corrected by the Hanabila themselves. Now the author starts off the section on Siyam. He says Kitab al-Siyam, the chapter on fasting. Kitab means the book. The book, because in reality, this is a book on fasting. This could be an independent book on fasting. And that's how the fuqaha used to break down their chapters. Kitab. Kitab. Kitab is like a chapter. Kitab as-salah. Kitab as-siyam. Kitab al-Hajj, the chapter on Salah, the chapter on Siyam, the chapter on Hajj, and so on. Now, under Kitab, if they needed a subsection under Kitab, it would be referred to as Bab. Bab. Kitab al-Tahara, the chapter on Tahara. And then they'll talk about purification. Under that, they will have, under the book on Tahara, purification, they have Bab al-Niyya, Bab al-Ma', the water, Bab al-Wudu, Bab al-Ghusl. So under Kitab, if there is a more detailed subsection needed, it would be called Bab. If there is more subsections needed under Bab, they would refer to it as Fasl. So it's Kitab, Bab, then Fasl. That's how they break down, usually, how they break down their subsections within a chapter. Here the author mentioned Kitab al-Siyam. Kitab al-Siyam means everything you need to know about Siyam. Kitab, the book on Siyam. Under Kitab al-Siyam, he mentions, under Kitab al-Siyam, he mentions 5 subsections. and each is considered bab. The first one that he mentions, and so you get an overall of what we'll be studying. The first section is how Ramadan starts, by meaning the sighting, how it starts and ends, the moon, the crescent, who must fast, who's exempted, and the intention. Then the second bab is what voids fast, when someone must do a kafara, and under that is a subsection fasl on sexual intercourse during Ramadan. Then the third bab is what is disliked and what is sunnah during your fast, in the ruling on making up fasting. Then the fourth one is bab of fasting, non-obligatory fast, the sunnah type of fasting. And the fifth bab is on i'tikaf. This book, Zad al-Mustaqna, is a comprehensive book on all fiqh, like I said. You can actually take out sections like Kitab al-Salah, and it will be as if it's an independent book on either Salah or Som, whichever section you take out. What we're doing now is teaching the section on fasting, and it's called Kitab. If you take the fasting section out, it's like we're doing an independent book on fasting. This is a very brief introduction, and I think I went over time already. And each issue I mentioned today is really worthy of several lectures. But I kept it brief to coincide with the fact that it's Ramadan, so we can attempt to finish this book in Ramadan, inshallah. Each point I mentioned today is worthy of several talks, or at least one talk. But it's very summarized there. So I don't want you to get the idea that I spoke about everything in detail. For example, the issue of blind following of the madhahib and our love and respect for ulama, that needs a few talks in itself. As actually, it has many details to it. The importance of sticking to the classical work of the ulama, that's worthy of a talk. The point about what fiqh is and how ulama structured their fiqh books and the mother books on fiqh, that's worthy of several talks. That's just a very short summary that I gave to coincide with the time that we have. Tomorrow we will start with the first sentence of this book. You need to bring it and follow along so you won't get lost. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you, accept from you. Jazakumullahu khaira. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.